You are now tuning into the Resilient Podcast. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. I am your host, Rob Aurelius, and welcome to the Resilient Podcast. Today is episode 18, the last episode of the year. I want to take a moment before I dive into this last episode, and I want to say thank you to everyone that has tuned in to every episode, including this one, number 18. Thank you for listening from the beginning of the first episode of this podcast, which debuted and aired in April, and now this last episode of the year, here now in December. First and foremost, I hope that everyone had a great Christmas. Unfortunately, my Christmas wasn't the way I planned it to be this year, because by the time that Christmas came around this year, I was planning to already have been engaged for a month to the woman who I thought was the love of my life. And I believe that I was going to be somewhere for Christmas with her, kind of like celebrating everything still, celebrating her 31st birthday, celebrating our engagement, and also with the possibility that if she would have graduated from the academy that she said she was going to be a part of before we broke up, we would have been celebrating that as well too. Unfortunately, none of that stuff happened. I spent my Christmas alone, and that was by choice, because I could have spent it with my family. My mom was in town visiting, and her and my brother both cooked, but I chose to spend it alone for the most part. I did go home at one point, and I did have food with my family, and I did give them their Christmas gifts. And, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy on Christmas Day, because all I kept thinking about was Christmas last year. There was some good and there was some bad moments from Christmas of last year. First and foremost, I got there on Christmas Eve, and the vibe was off. When she picked me up, she was upset. And I mentioned this in the previous episode. She was upset that I had still been on the phone with my account executive from Dolce & Gabbana. We were talking about the numbers, because I had just finished working for Dolce & Gabbana, wrapping up the Christmas season, the holiday season for them. And I was coming from Jersey. And from Jersey, I went to Manhattan. And then from Manhattan, I took the bus and went to Philadelphia. And I was taking a different route. So I was getting off one stop before I normally get off at. I used to get off at Center City, and I was getting off at Philadelphia Mills. And the reason why is because she had moved closer to Philadelphia Mills. And the vibe was just off. When she picked me up, she was upset that I was on the phone. And the reason why she was upset is because she was trying to communicate with me as she was driving, where to pick me up. And I was still on the phone with my account executive. And I was also trying to rush her off the phone. And I was saying to her, hey, Philomena, you know, my girlfriend is on her way and she's very close and she's reaching out to me because she wants to make sure she picks me up where she has to pick me up at. Because literally the bus stop literally is like in a parking lot. So she wanted to know which zone she had to pick me up at. And folks, believe me when I say this, I wanted to make sure that I was talking to her on the phone. And I wanted to make sure that she had the right directions. I didn't want to be on the phone with someone from work on Christmas Eve, especially like around what, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, whatever time it was. Bottom line, when I got there, she pulled up, she took my luggage, kind of yanked it out of my hand, tossed it into the car, and said something inappropriate. It wasn't too bad, but it was just her showing that she was annoyed and upset. And we didn't talk for the most part until we got to her house. And then she asked me when I got to her house if everything was okay, because she was heading back to her mother's place. She was spending the night with her mother because, again, you know, it's normally the Latinos that celebrate Christmas Eve. So she said, look, but she had said this to me before I got to Philadelphia. And she said to me, my mom wants me to spend the night because she's working tomorrow for Christmas Day. And, you know, of course, I'm spending it with you, but she wants me to spend Christmas Eve with her. And I said, sure, no problem. That gave me enough time to decorate the Christmas tree for her, which I did. And when she left, you know, I felt bad for how things were when she picked me up. And I wish I would have like apologized to her then and there instead of just being like disappointed with how she acted. And I wish I would have said, even though I felt that I was entitled to be disappointed, like, hey, it's Christmas Eve. But then again, I guess it's not important to you that it's Christmas Eve. It's probably just another day for you. But at the same time, I'm like, hey, it's Christmas Eve. Like, you know, where's my kiss? Where's my hello? Where's my, hey, babe, you know, happy holidays. I was entitled to feel that way, but I wish that at the time I would have said something to her like, hey, I'm very sorry that I was on the phone with my account executive when you pulled up. Please forgive me. So, you know, the next day was Christmas. She came home. She was upset because her apartment was very hot. I think it was very cold that night, and the apartment temperature just got really warm because her thermostat, I don't know if it's automatic or something, but when she got there, she was very upset because the windows were fogged. She felt like the apartment was too hot, and she kind of scolded me for that. And again, I felt bad because I said to myself, you know, here she is upset again, and it's Christmas Day. And what bothered me the most was that morning when she got to her house, there was no hug and kiss, good morning, Merry Christmas. It was our first Christmas together and pretty much our last. And I just stood there and looked and said to myself, man, like, you know, she didn't even acknowledge anything besides the fact that she was upset that her apartment was too hot. And I said, this kind of reminds me of my mom. This kind of reminds me of things back home. This kind of reminds me of my family, how my family has acted towards me when I'm trying to be cheerful about a situation and they're just not having it. They're just like, look, I'm angry, I'm upset, and that's final. And, you know, I just felt terrible. And then things got a little better because, you know, we opened up our gifts. We took photos together. We took selfies. I was able to take a selfie with me. She took a selfie of us with her Polaroid camera. I only saw that photo when she took it. I wish I would have taken a picture of it because she put it on the Christmas tree and I never saw that photo of her again. So sorry that I let all of that out. It's not how I wanted to start off the episode. But the way I did want to start off the episode was by pretty much just expressing my gratitude to everyone for their support for me, for this podcast throughout the entire year. You know, the name of this episode is Resilience in Retrospect, the journey of 2024. And, you know, I want to acknowledge the challenges and growth the year has brought, because I want to set the tone for this episode. And, you know, I have a few questions that a friend of mine asked me recently about how I wanted to end this podcast for the year. And they asked me a series of questions, and I have them here with me on my phone, actually. And I'm going to answer them right here. And, you know, the first question that was asked to me was, what was the biggest challenge I faced this year? And I want to answer that by saying the biggest challenge I faced this year, such as the heartbreak and the moments of self-doubt that I dealt with this year, was the breakup. I saw that that this relationship was fading away. I saw that this relationship was going downhill. The ship was sinking. And where I failed to keep this relationship alive was my lack of self-awareness and my lack of accountability. I believe that if I had more self-awareness and more accountability, I probably would have been able to save this relationship. But instead, I would wake up certain days feeling like I'm losing her. I need to do something. And then there was days that I would wake up and I would be like, well, it's happening and there's not much I can do about it. You know, I mentioned before that for the most part, women normally emotionally check out of relationships before they physically check out of a relationship. And when they emotionally check out, it's very difficult. It's just very, very, very difficult to get a woman to change her mind, to go back on her word. And, you know, two bad things have happened to me in this life. Things that really destroyed me. The first thing was the death of my grandmother. My grandmother died 5 years ago this month. When that woman died, a part of my life died too. And I feel like I had been trying to find resilience since then, since she passed away. And the second bad thing that happened to me in this life so far was losing my ex-girlfriend. Watching that relationship die. I've never seen a relationship of mine die like that. Normally things just happen. Sometimes, you know, most of us, we go through breakups and the breakups just happen. The breakup that I had before this one, that breakup happened suddenly, just one day. And it was my ex-partner saying, well, if this is how things are going to be, then I don't want to be with you. And that's how that relationship ended. And of course, there was time and there was opportunity to try to salvage that and try to get back together. But we just let it be. In this case, I watched her lose love for me. I watched her lose interest in me. Things were happening to me and I was telling her, hey, this is happening. And just her responses were just like, oh, okay. You know, there was no advice. There was nothing. The only time during that time that during the breakup phase, she actually showed that she cared about something was I had said to her about my trip to Florida. And I was having issues with the two people. There was two people in Florida that I wanted to go see during my trip. And I didn't get a chance to see them because they had family that were visiting. So they were very limited with time. And I had an issue with them previously. And she was aware of it, my ex-girlfriend. So when I had said to her, like, oh, when I get there, I'm just going to rent an Airbnb and I'm not going to stay with them, because I had asked if I could stay with them. And I even asked if I could stay with my cousin. And both of them said that they weren't able to accommodate me because my cousin had another relative that was staying over who was, I guess, working on their papers to legally enter the country. And then the other two ladies, my friends, they had their family come over from Nebraska. So I remember saying something to her, and I remember her saying, well, I don't want this to be an issue, because if it does, then I'm going to have to go to Florida. And, pretty much she said, like, I'm going to have to go to Florida and take care of business. And when she said that, I kind of chuckled and I said, oh, she still cares about me. And that was like the last time that she said anything that sounded like she cared about me. After that, there was things happening to me from time to time, and her responses were just like, okay, whatever. Sometimes not even a response at all. Because remember, like I mentioned, this was a person that I would talk to on the phone. And I would say things to her, and I would, try to have conversation, because obviously when you call somebody on the phone, and it was mainly me calling her most of the time, you want to start a conversation. But she was just always emotionally checked out of every conversation that we had. She just wasn't there. And the most she ever spoke to me on the phone was the day that we broke up. The most that she ever had to say. There was a day in January when I was getting ready to go to my trip, and then March 21st. She never spoke so much on the phone. I know that there was also a time in November where we had a conversation, and we were talking about things, and I mentioned this in one of the podcast episodes, where I was upset with how I already had, like, the trial period in our relationship already had expired, and we were ready, like, okay, we're together, this is who we are. And I was getting to see who she was, and I wasn't happy with her attitude. And I remember that I was having that conversation with her, like, look, like, these are things about you that I don't like. And she spoke briefly there. She mentioned a few things to me. Then after that, like I said, the next time she spoke to me on the phone, and she said she had a lot to say, was in January. And then the most she ever spoke to me in the entire relationship was that night that we broke up. So these experiences, everything that I went through this entire year, this breakup, tested my resilience so much. And it shaped my perspective, because now I remember when I was with her, because I had healed a little bit from my previous relationship, 2.5 years to be exact, which I thought was enough time. I wanted to be a different person. I wanted to be a different man. That's why with her, as much as she felt that I didn't have too much patience, because that's something she said to me during the relationship. She always said to me, you have so much patience for everything else but me. And I felt that that was not true. And the reason why I felt that that was not true is because, again, if I didn't have patience for her, if I didn't have patience for the relationship, I would have left sooner. I would have left her, not her deciding 6 months later, hey, I think we're not compatible. Hey, I think that we should go our separate ways. The reason why I never did that is because I felt that there was going to be change. I felt that with me saying to her, hey, these are the things that are bothering me, or these are things that I noticed about you that I think are not good qualities, that she would want to change, not for me, but for her, for herself, for this relationship. That's if she really cared about me. That's if she really cared about this relationship. But, you know, I had this conversation with her, and over and over and over, by the way, and she still said that I didn't have patience. You know, normally a person that doesn't have patience, they probably wouldn't have a conversation, that same conversation, more than once, more than twice, not even, probably not even more than 3 times. And I had this conversation with her over and over and over. So I think, you know, no disrespect to how she felt, but I think that I actually was patient enough. And I wish she would have had seen that. At the end of the day, these challenges really, really helped mold me into where I'm heading now, you know, as far as healing and growth. And the second question that my friend asked me was, what are you most proud of from 2024? And the only things that I could say that I was proud of was creating the Resilience Podcast, creating the Resilience Tribune, and just being more kind, giving myself more grace, and just helping more, just volunteering more of my time and more acts of service. Those are the only things that I can say that I was proud of for this year. Also, you know, I created the Resilience Project documentary. And, you know, even though we're still working on it and it's not going to debut until hopefully sometime next year in late 2025, I'm proud of that too. You know, I never thought that I was going to create a podcast. I never thought that I was going to create a platform called the Resilience Tribune. I mean, the Brooklyn Tribune was something that I had planned in 2013, 2014. I can't really remember, but I remember I was going to do that. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to help people share their stories about Brooklyn. But then eventually, everything happens for a reason. I put the Brooklyn Tribune on the shelf for almost a decade. And when I was ready to relaunch it, I literally was ready to relaunch it last year. And I said, you know what? I'm too busy. And then I got in a relationship. And this is how much consideration I had. I said, I'm in a relationship. Let me be there for my partner. Let me be a full-time boyfriend. Let me be a full-time worker, full-time son, full-time brother, full-time business associate, business partner. And I said, the Brooklyn Tribune can wait. And then I said, I'm going to launch it in the fall of 2024. And then 2024 started. And 3 months into the year, this happens, the breakup. I said, I'm not going to do I'm not going to do the Brooklyn Tribune right now. I'm going to relaunch. I'm going to just wait till fall of 2025. Then as time went by, and I'm trying to navigate and I'm trying to do everything I can to remain resilient and remain strong and remain positive. And with all the things that happened this year, I picked up so much inspiration and so much motivation. And I finally decided to create the Resilience Tribune, which what happened was I pivoted. Instead of stories of Brooklyn, I want to hear stories of resilience. And to me, that's a personal victory. And another personal victory to me is emotional growth and trying to find peace during these tough situations. The next question my friend asked me was, what role did resilience play in your journey this year? And I said, oh, resilience helped navigate through so much difficult times, both personally and professionally, because we're talking about Rob Aurelius, the person, and then Rob Aurelius, this businessman. Had to find resilience in both of those things, both aspects. The best part of motivation this year in finding resilience was when Cody Rhodes won the WWE Undisputed Championship at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Watching Cody Rhodes finish his story made me realize that, holy crap, it's been 2 weeks since my breakup. I'm destroyed. I'm torn. My ex is supposed to be here with me, watching all of this, being a part of all of this, her first WrestleMania. And it didn't happen. And Cody's story was just everything to me. Even though professional wrestling is, choreographed and it's all storyline, in real life, he really wanted to win that championship, and he finally did. And he was able to honor his dad's legacy while he did that, while, cementing his own legacy. In a year, because April's around the corner, I'll be able to speak about that again. And I could just imagine what they will be telling Cody Rhodes as well. Like, it's been a year since he won the world champion, the championship. Hopefully he's still champion by that time. There's rumors that he may not make it to WrestleMania season next year with the championship, but I pray that Cody Cody won that belt, April 7th. So I hope that this time, April 7th, 2025, that Cody is still champion. A year as champion, I think that would be a great thing for him. But I could just imagine what they're going to share with him, when that year comes around. Look, I just spoke about the reflections of 2024. So let's talk about the lessons learned. The fourth question my friend asked me was, if you could give your January 2024 self one piece of advice, what would it be? And that question really, really, really caught me off guard. And that's a great question. And how would I respond to that? I want to start off by saying that I feel that I should reflect on how I've grown since the start of the year and what I wish I would have known earlier. The advice I would have gave myself, the one piece of advice that I would have gave myself would be the change you want to see. That would be the advice. And for those that might resonate with me and who are also navigating through challenges, I want to say the same thing to you. Be the change you want to see. And take accountability. In everything that happens to you in life, you do have a role that you serve. You may not feel that way, but it's just the truth. Always try to acknowledge your role. And once you acknowledge your role, take accountability for it. Then my friend asked me, and I think this is one of the best questions they asked me, was what lessons from this year will you carry into 2025? And, before I answer that, I want to say that this episode I felt was going to be extremely emotional. And so far, I'm doing okay. I want to share with you all very quickly, maybe the first time I share it on this episode, but this is something that's been so pivotal in my breakup, in my resilience journey. I used to play with this every day. And for those that are on Spotify listening to this right now, I am holding something very instrumental in my resilient journey. It's not the original one, because unfortunately the original hourglass broke, because this is what I'm holding, an hourglass. The original one broke. And I remember sharing with everyone that when the original one broke, and I looked up, what does it mean when an hourglass breaks? It says that you ran out of time. And shortly after that hourglass broke, my ex-girlfriend and I broke up. So this is the replacement hourglass. This is the hourglass that I replaced. Because even though we didn't break up as soon as the hourglass broke, I was able to replace it. And I told her that I had replaced the hourglass. So this is the replacement. This hourglass is what is dictating my new journey, my new life, the new beginning. So I wanted to take that time to share this with you all. So, I want to discuss some takeaways, such as the importance of patience, self-love, and adaptability. I want to relate to these lessons to my future goals and to my future aspirations. My future goals is to be the most resilient person that God ever put on this earth, and to help everyone who has a similar journey as mine. The lessons that I'll be taking into 2025 is that I will not go so hard for people unless there's reciprocation. I will not sell myself short any longer. I will not break my back for someone or something. And as I realize that it's not taking me anywhere, I will walk away. I've done it this year. I've walked away from, I mentioned this before. My ex-girlfriend is not the only person that I have lost this year. I have lost a couple of best friends. I have lost some people that were very important to me, people that I've known for a long time. There was a friend that I knew for over a decade. Her name was Carly, spiritual advisor friend of mine. And, during the election season, we parted ways for good because she didn't like my views on how I felt about trans people and illegals. I remember saying that, with illegals, I am opposed to illegals, coming here legally. I do want illegals to come here legally, and I want to make sure that anybody chasing the American dream, because look, at the end of the day, all of us have one thing in common. We all have relatives that are immigrants. some of us are immigrants ourselves. I'm not an immigrant because I was born here, but my parents are immigrants. My parents are immigrants, you know, chasing the American dream. And I'm all for someone coming to this country to chase the American dream. But at the end of the day, just make sure that you do it the right way, that you do it legally. There's more resources today. So don't take advantage of the loopholes. Try to do everything legally. And my second stance is, like, as far as like trans people, I have always been vocal and have said that, do I condone trans people using the same restrooms as biological, women or men? Absolutely not. I feel that they should create a safe space for trans people, just like we should create a safe space for people that are, biological men, biological women. Creating safe spaces, in my opinion, reduces situations where there's chaos and, misunderstandings and frustration. And I was vocal about that. And she didn't like that. This old friend of mine, she was against it. And she stopped talking to me because of that. And that's fine. I'm always going to stand up for what I believe in. And that's just how I am. And I respect everyone else's opinion. But I don't think that I'm wrong for wanting to create safe spaces for everybody, so that everybody can feel comfortable in their own skin and feel comfortable living their truth. So there's a few more questions that my friend asked me. And I think these are from the memorable moments from the podcast. What was my favorite episode or guest moment from this year? My favorite podcast episode was episode number 15 with Jose Cruz. It was called Light. We were able to listen to Jose speak. And for those of you who haven't heard that episode yet or watch that episode, it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon Music, it's on Apple Podcast. It's called Light, episode 15. Very fortunate to have Jose come. And one of the other episodes that I also enjoyed was the episode with Oscar. Patience. That was a great episode. And that episode is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and YouTube. I believe that Oscar and Jose each left a lasting impact. Even the episode that I had with my first guest, which was Nikki, I think she was great. Even my podcast episode with Danny Ocean out in Atlanta, I think that was a great episode too, and I look forward to every guest in 2025, because that's when we will have our next guest at some point in 2025. And these conversations literally influence my journey. And I hope it connected with you guys, you all, the audience. And then this friend of mine actually listens to the podcast. So another question of theirs was, what feedback from listeners meant the most to you? And, people were just saying things to me like, you're not alone. Thank you for the advice. Thank you for, sometimes I listen to, what I appreciated the most, and this happened recently, was one of the people that listens to my podcast repeating to me what I said. And I said, wow, they really do listen. I love it. These comments were meaningful. And remember that these comments that I make on every episode are just to reinforce the purpose of the podcast. It is called the Resilience Podcast. So I want to acknowledge the community for your role in making the Resilient Podcast a success. 18 episodes. That's how we end the year. 18 episodes strong. And let's go back to episode 1. In November of 2023, last year, 2023, I reached out to Josh Lopez and said, let's start a podcast soon. Don't know the name yet, but we're going to create one soon. And in the beginning of April, was it the beginning of April or was it the end of March? I think it was like either the end of March or the beginning of April. I reached out to him again. I said, listen, we're going to do this podcast. And the first episode was with him. And I think it was a great podcast episode. And I literally shot that episode right down the hall from this building in my office. And I was so happy that day. So happy because WrestleMania had just passed. And I was ready to start this journey. So I'm thankful for Josh helping me create this vision, come up with the name, come up with the concept, even though he decided not to continue to be a part of it. He wished me well. And I don't know if he's watching these episodes. I don't know if he's listening to them. I don't know. I don't know if one day he's going to run into one of them. But if he ever does, I want to say thank you for believing in the Resilient Podcast. Now, let's talk about some closing thoughts. Another question that my friend asked me was, what are you looking forward to in 2025? And I want to discuss the upcoming projects, such as continuing the Resilient Podcast. You know, the Resilient Podcast is not going anywhere. It's going to stay. It's going to get better. It's going to evolve. I look forward to the first article on the Resilience Tribune platform. I look forward to my personal growth goals, some weight loss, getting back in shape, and just, you know, the new opportunities that are to come. And hopefully these new opportunities will help me remain resilient and guide me through my journey of healing and guide me through my journey of finding resilience. The last question that my friend asked was, what message do I want to leave my listeners with as the year ends? And before I do that, I want to share something very special with everyone. I mentioned before that I have done promotions for fragrances for Dolce & Gabbana. And sometimes I go to different places to do it. Bloomingdale's, Saks, Macy's. In Bloomingdale's, there is a woman who's the business manager for Versace, which is a very well-known popular brand, right? And this young lady has a very special name. And this year, when, you know, the holidays were approaching, there's this thing called gratis where people get free gifts, free fragrances, for supporting, you know, the other person's brand. So in my case, I'm Mr. Dolce, she's Mrs. Versace. And she gave me gratis to you know, for supporting her brand, for helping her, you know, because whenever a customer doesn't want to buy Dolce & Gabbana and they ask me, is there anything you would recommend outside of your brand, which I'm not supposed to do, but I would be like, yeah, you know, you can try something like Versace or Prada or, you know, YSL, Christian Dior. And this woman says to me, I have something for you. And she gives it to me. And it's in this bag. And I haven't opened it. And she gave this to me a little bit before Christmas. And as you can see, for those that are on Spotify, it's a brown bag from Bloomingdale's, and it says little brown bag. And right here it says D&G to Robert from Versace. And guess what her name is? Aura. Aura is the name of my grandmother. Aura is the name of my sister. My grandmother is the most important person in my life. She always will be. And no one else at Bloomingdale's gave me gratis. The only person that gave me gratis was that woman, Aura. And I feel like it was for a reason. I feel like it was my grandmother probably trying to talk to me. And I don't know what's inside yet. I haven't opened it. I'm not going to open it on screen. I want to take that moment to myself, personally, privately. But I want to say thank you to Aura for this gift. And I feel like, again, with everything that's been going on in my life this year, I think my grandmother wanted to talk to me. So she probably spoke to me in the message of these gifts. I also want to talk about this book. I've mentioned it before. And this book was given to me a year ago on December 25th, 2023, which was Christmas Day. And it was given to me by my ex-girlfriend. And it's a 5-year question a day memory journal. Had I known that this was going to be so pivotal in my journey, I don't know what I would have done. But this journal helped me. And this journal was given to me by the woman that I love the most. And for the next 5 years, I am dedicating this resilience journey to myself, to her, and to everyone else that believes in me. So for that, before I answer the question that my friend asked me, I want to take a Terramana toast. I want to have a Terramana toast. This Terramana toast is for 2024. Thank you for all the lessons that you taught me. Thank you for the good, for the bad, for the ugly. And I look forward to 2025. Salute. Now, let's get back to the question. What message do I want to leave my listeners as the year ends? Folks, the importance of resilience is to help you all encourage yourselves to reflect on your own growth. I was not expecting this year to be the way it turned out. I had not had any of this planned. What I had planned was celebrate my 38th birthday on a cruise with the love of my life. And that didn't happen. I was planning to celebrate her 31st birthday in the city of Las Vegas. And then the next day, proposed to her while we were still there. That did not happen. One thing we need to understand is that life is not always going to go as we planned or we visioned. And it's going to destroy us sometimes. Sometimes we're going to be okay with it. Sometimes we're going to say, oh, that didn't work out. Okay, no problem. Sometimes it's going to be like how I felt, like, oh my God. No. You know, when you have to sit there and think and reflect and realize that nothing is going the way you wanted it to go, you just have to, you don't question God. Just say, okay, God, I understand that you didn't want me to have that. Maybe it's because you have something better for me. But just don't question God. Don't. Because I was so angry for so long. So long. And then during my healing journey, I realized that I was in love with someone's potential. And that's why when we broke up, it destroyed me even more. Could she still be that person that my potential believes she was? Yes. But she's probably not going to be that person for me. She's going to be that person for someone else if that's the case. And it's going to hurt. And that's completely fine. But even though right now I'm not interested in dating, I'm not interested in moving on and finding a new woman, I don't know when, but when it does happen and I decide to move on, I just pray that she understands and appreciates me. I'm still in awe that this is the last episode. I'm still in shock mode. But folks, this is it. This is the last episode of the Resilient Podcast for 2024. Not the last episode for good. One more time, I want to thank you all for tuning in to every episode. And don't forget to visit TheResilientTribune.com if you want to share your story with us about a moment that you felt resilient. Or if you want to come on this podcast and you want to be a guest, send me an email, rob@resiliencetribune.com. Also, very important, we have, and I made this announcement a while ago, we have Resilience Podcast merch. And pretty soon we'll be having Resilience Tribune merch as well, too. So where do you find that? Just go to theresiliencetribune.com. Go to the section where it says TRP shop. Click on it. It's going to take you to another link and check out the merch. T-shirts, hoodies, and jackets. And then eventually at some point, even more merch. But yeah, resiliencetribune.com, just like you see right here. And click on the part where it says TRP shop. And remember, I believe 10% of your purchase will go to special proceeds. And this is what I wanted when I partnered up with Blue from For Your Wear, who makes incredible merch for podcasters and independent wrestlers and whatnot. Shout out to Blue. Blue's great. I can't wait to have him on the podcast soon. I'll have him on the podcast at some point. And also, folks, don't forget that if you're looking for something to help you with anxiety, with being a little bit more creative, also something that could help you with insomnia, make sure that you go to my partner, Victor Melgar's website, nalahealth.com. And there should be an assessment there on the website. Make sure that you fill out that assessment. But he has products on there. And remember, every time that you want to purchase a product, you get a special discount for tuning into the podcast. The discount code is TRP10. So put in TRP10 and you get 10% off your purchase on Nala Health's website. This is the end of this episode. And I just want to take the time to deeply express my gratitude to you all and thanking you all once again for your unwavering support throughout this year. I want to encourage all of you to carry the spirit of resilience into 2025. I also want you all to know that for the next season of the Resilient Podcast, there's going to be a lot of surprises. There's going to be a lot of beautiful things happening. And I look forward to sharing a very special announcement with you all at some point in 2025. I know what it is. I'm just not ready to share it. And it's not the Resilience Project, because I already announced that. But I can't wait to share something so exciting with you all. But I want to close this hopeful and inspired. And I want to share my message with the world. And my message with the world is, be the greatest person for yourself. And once you become the greatest person for yourself, you will become the greatest person you need to be for everyone else. Remember that. I want to wish you all from the bottom of my heart, happy holidays, happy New Year 2025. I want to wish everyone a year of growth, love, and strength. Once again, I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Resilient Podcast. And I look forward to seeing you all on episode 19 next month in January 2025. A new year, a new time, a new demand, new blessings, new chapters. I'm so thankful. My heart is full. My heart is full. And I have my resilience chain here that someone gave me as a gift this year. And my resilience bracelets. Let me finish this off by thanking a few people. I thanked some people before, and I'm going to thank some people again. I want to thank my ex-girlfriend for doing what she needed to do to help me realize that I was going the wrong path, and that the only way I was going to be able to go the right path was if we broke up and I was able to realize what I had been doing. And now I have to find a way to be resilient. I want to thank my parents for their love, my siblings, my friends, my best friends, Estefania, Javier. I want to thank James. I want to thank Oscar. I want to thank Maddie, Carl, everyone that's been on the podcast, Nikki, Danny, Jose. I want to thank, again, Josh for helping me create this podcast. I want to thank every person this year that didn't give up on me. I want to thank my family at Dolce & Gabbana, my family at Terramana, my family at Papa Tui, the greatest skincare line in the world. Aura for the beautiful gift that I will be opening after this podcast ends. Diego Serrano for everything he has done for me this year. Diego's been through some fire with me, and he's also been through some fire for me. And I want to thank you for never giving up. I want to thank you for being resilient yourself. I want to thank James for helping me with this documentary. I want to thank the people that left. Some of you I will miss, some of you I won't. because it's just a lesson learned. I want to thank the new people that came in. And in advance, I want to thank the new people that are going to come soon. Thank you for everyone that believed in me. Thank you for everyone that subscribed to this YouTube channel, to this podcast on Spotify. Thank you for everyone that's given me a chance. And if I forgot someone, I'm still, thank you. I appreciate you. One more person I want to thank. Thank you, God. Folks, it's been a pleasure. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. This is the end of episode 18. I look forward to seeing you all next year. Remember, one life to live it well, and always remain resilient. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor, and it's been a privilege. I love you all. God bless. See you in 2025. Peace.